What's going on, everyone? Welcome to my channel. Yeah, man, this is Kevin from Kevin's Corner, and also my new channel is called Stop and Think About ... See, because there's a lot of things to think about that people just never really stop to think about it in depth. So my goal here is to challenge you to just put two and two together, to stop for 1 second before you make a decision, before you react to something, before you formulate an opinion, and think about it like, okay, things like what would motivate this person to say this or do this? What would be the circumstances that would need to create this scenario? Did it just happen by chance, or are there unseen forces motivating it to happen? Because so many people make the mistake of responding to unseen elements that formulate their opinions, their reactions, all of those things. And so my goal is to really stimulate some creative thinking and make sure people put two and two together before they land on a conclusion that might really damage their future, impact their life, and so on and so forth. So we need to think about some things today. And today, what we're going to be thinking about is President Trump coming back onto some of these social media platforms. Okay, now why would one want to stop President Trump from returning to these platforms? See, that's something to stop and think about. Why would they want to do that? And we're going to be listening to a couple people from the media and the Democrats who are upset. They're in the tizzy, y'all. They're a little concerned about why President Trump is coming back and the impact that it might have, what, on the country or else on them? See, that's the question you got to ask yourself. Are you really concerned about our democracy? Are you afraid and concerned about your own power? Let's get into this. So by now, you all probably know that President Trump was kicked off of Twitter and Facebook right towards the end of his presidency. And they use all of these excuses that he was dangerous to our society, that he encouraged an insurrection and all of those things. And they kicked him off. Now, that's just unheard of because he was the president of the United States. And yet they were trying to make it appear that he was trying to be a dictator. Now, I heard a wise person once say that a dictator cannot be censored. Any group of people or entity that could silence the dictator is the dictator. So you have to put it in the context of like Kim Jong-un or Xi out there in China. Do you think that if media companies didn't like what they were saying, do you think they would be able to censor them? No. All of those people will find themselves in a real interesting predicament, possibly never to be seen again. Those are true dictators. See, but you have to stop and think, first of all, well, what are the characteristics of a dictator? A dictator, number one, would want to silence people who speaks out against them. A dictator would want to control communication. A dictator would want to seize all types of weapons. A dictator would want to have the ability to censor to make sure that they can control the people's mind through dis and misinformation and use that information to go after people who disagrees with them. Those are some of the characteristics of a dictator. Now ask yourself, what did Trump's policies represent? Did he ever talk about silencing or censoring people? No, he's a big proponent of the First Amendment. Did he ever hint around to removing people's ability to resist tyranny, considering the Second Amendment? No, he was a big advocate for the Second Amendment. So that right there makes me start wondering, well, why did y'all censor him and declare that he was trying to be a dictator? Those things are contrary. But there are some people who do believe in those things, and we're about to see who those people are.
So you are ending the suspension of former President Trump on Facebook and Instagram. Why are you doing that now? And explain what's behind it.
So he was suspended for 2 years from using Facebook and Instagram, and that 2-year clock expires now this month. And so we're confirming that if he wants to, he can, in the coming weeks, he can use Facebook and Instagram again. I mean, of course, there are guardrails, there are rules. He's got to play by the rules, and we're announcing some additional ones today to encourage him to stick to the rules that exist when people use Facebook and Instagram. At the end of the day, we believe the American people should hear from, including on our apps and services, from those who want to lead them. And he's a former president of the of this country, vying to be a candidate for the next presidential elections, and we don't really want to, all other things be equal, stand in the way. So we think it's right to let the 2-year suspension now expire.
Now, did you hear those fancy words from that man from England?
Yes, he was the president of this this country.
Why can't you say the country? I mean, are you that globalistic? The United States, man, it's called America. Greatest country on the planet, okay? We speak American here. And it's not a language, it's an attitude. But now he's saying that after Trump's 2 years suspension, we think it's only fair to bring him back. This is America, all the stuff that, you hear. But I got a feeling that maybe their motive is not pure either. I mean, just imagine, guys, what if Trump mess around and win the second time? Then all of a sudden, these companies that use their power to censor a United States president might be in trouble. See, I think there's a lot of people, a lot of entities that are now starting to go, okay, just in case Trump wins, we better go ahead and try to change it up. See, because if he wins, we might pop up on that radar as a company that, went way beyond the measure in regards to responding to what Trump was saying, responding to the freedom of speech and so on and so forth. They don't want to pop up on that radar. Right about now, it's probably safe for them to go ahead and say, just in case, we better reinstate him.
I mean, it's up to him and his team. If he wants to use Facebook and Instagram, he's now free to do so.
How worried are you that he's been given his platform again, the place where he called for his supporters more or less to storm the United States Capitol and try to upend our democracy?
Very.
No, did y'all hear that, man? Now, see, this is where you got to stop and think. So this man right here is having a panel, and you have to ask yourself, why is MSNBC starting off with this leading question? How worried are you that he's going to be reinstated, that where he started, pretty basically started an insurrection, encourages members to... Now, this is a bold-faced lie right on TV. This is propaganda. This is supposed to be a reporter reporting the news, but yet here he is embellishing and lying. Nowhere. No how, no way did President Trump ever say on Twitter, Facebook, or any other thing, I want you guys to go to the Capitol and storm the Capitol. This is them putting words in the president's mouth. This is them trying to take a small situation of people who made their own decision, if they did, because there's a lot of controversy surrounding that thing that took place up there in January. However, here he is trying to say that just because President Trump questioned some of the results, questioned some of the suspect behaviors surrounding that last election and others, and then said, let's practice our constitutional right to go up there and let our voices peacefully be heard. He's trying to say, by doing that, you guys, or he, President Trump, inspired a riot and told them to go and storm the Capitol. Now, that's a bold-faced lie, but that's what he's there for. He's there to lie. He's there to create a sense of fear and concern if President Trump get back in, because he almost overthrew our democracy, because he's an autocrat and he's a dictator and stuff like that. As this man is already trying to suggest that President Trump shouldn't be allowed to speak on these platforms. That right there sounds like what a dictator would do.
George, I admire his work. He says it's mystifying. I don't think it's all that mystifying, if I may, right? Facebook needs money. Trump needs relevance. I think it's a devil's bargain here. And I think that ultimately Facebook will be making a deal with the devil, and probably the check's going to bounce because it never actually works out.
See?
I think the marketplace of ideas has to adjudicate, debate, do we want a Trumpian autocracy, or do we want a constitutional democracy that, for all its imperfections, has produced a country that most of us want to defend?
Now look at the question that he's posing. Do we want a autocracy? Now, how did Trump try to have an autocracy? Which one of his policies actually would violate the Constitution, would appear to be something that a dictator would do, that would infringe upon people's civil liberties, their constitutional rights? Nothing. None of his policies, none of his actions or behaviors would even suggest what this man is trying to say. But yet he's just inferring and throwing out things that he hopes that the people that's listening to him would fill in the blanks. They won't ask questions. They won't stop and think about it. They won't say, now wait, what exactly did Trump do that was so bad that would make me feel like he is trying to have autocracy? That's pretty interesting. And yet this man is talking about we need to figure out how to preserve our constitutional republic and all of that. Well, by censoring a president that is very popular amongst his base, and a president that many people voted for, trying to eliminate him from platforms, trying to stack the deck, trying to tilt the odds all of those things. By doing all of this, you are attacking the very foundation of our democracy. But he's trying to say that we're the defenders of it. We're the defenders of our democracy, and Trump trying to create an autocracy. These people are using dictator language and tactics. I'm concerned more about them. And he's talking about a deal with the devil. We're listening to the devil right now speak through this man.
And that is a debate that has to unfold in the country. The better angels of our nature have won 2 elections in a row.
Angels? What?
2020 and 2022, which was supposed to be a terrible blowout against President Biden. It wasn't.
He's trying to say, well, you know what? People got over it. People realized their mistake, and the better angels of our nation spoke in 2022 and 2020. Well, did they? See, that's the very question that many people have. Was it angels or were they demons? See, my thought is this is the reason why Trump is dangerous to them, because he's not willing to set aside the suspicions that something nefarious took place. And that is not only in 2020, but in 2022. And there are many of his voters feel the same. They're trying to squash that narrative or that thought, that belief. Anyone who questions it, anyone who is suspicious about what they saw and witnessed, these folks right here, you know, you're going against our very democracy and you're a threat and you're a danger, and Trump got your mind. Yeah, your mind did not, you know, interpret people boarding up windows. No, it didn't interpret that as that's suspicious. Your mind didn't interpret all of those locations just mysteriously shut down in the middle of the night. Your mind didn't interpret that correctly. Your mind did not interpret all of the quirks, all of the testimonies of people saying that, yeah, something was interesting. Your mind didn't interpret it correctly. See, your mind was supposed to interpret all of that as perfectly normal. There you have it. And Trump has warped your mind. Or is he trying to warp our mind?
That said, if you're one of these companies, do you want to be
Here comes the guilt.
the means by which an autocrat mounts an assault on the Constitution itself?
So here comes the blame game. They're trying to go ahead and go after the companies with a preemptive strike. If you let him back on and he wins, do you want to be responsible for that? Do you want to be known as the company that contributed to this autocrat, this dictator getting back in? Do you? So now the company's got to make a choice. Do they listen to people like this, or do they listen to their own intuition saying, man, what if Trump wins? We'll be in big trouble then. We've already been busted, you know, colluding with the White House and the Democrat Party. We already been outed by whistleblowers concerning our influence in the elections and our biases. Maybe we should go ahead and chill out right about now. Okay, but this guy's suggesting that if you do that and let Trump back on, then you might be contributing to the downfall of our democracy. Yeah, or you could be contributing to saving our democracy. Let's continue hearing this man talk about a deal with the devil.
And that's, I mean, maybe they do.
They've already run that experiment. Right. They saw how it worked out.
So the question, I think, it's a moral question. There are financial incentives, I guess there are relevance incentives and all that, but it's a moral question. Yeah. Do you want this constitutional democracy to unfold, or do you want it to fall apart?
Now, the projection here that is being used is fascinating if you know anything about psychology. This is reverse psychology at its best. He's blaming everybody who might support democracy and a fair election process and people who wants to support the First Amendment and all of that. He's blaming them for saying, well, if you let Trump get back on, you're really destroying the First Amendment. You're really destroying democracy, okay? By letting Trump have a fair go at it in regards to being able to use those platforms, you're threatening the very democracy and constitution that you guys cherish. You're destroying the ability to love and embrace and utilize the First Amendment by silencing Trump. That will protect it. That will protect it. Now that doesn't make sense, does it? He's not there to make sense. He's trying to make sense out of nonsense. And only people who don't stop and think about it will fall for it.
And it's I hate it when people say it's just that simple. It's not simple, but it's straightforward, right? I mean, that's the question. And we don't have, as George says, there's no mystery here. He's done it all in front of us, on camera, right? I keep waiting for there to be like something secret.
What did he do?
You know, he said it, you know, you got to fight like hell. You know, he puts pressure on Pence.
Y'all hear that?
Let's remember, Mike Pence stood between us and the abyss. And I'm glad he did.
Now, once again, for those that maybe have not been following politics, they would fall victim to what that man just said. He said it. He didn't hide it. I mean, he said, hey, fight like hell, out of context, right? He's expecting no one to go back and watch the context that Trump was talking about when he said, go and fight like hell for your democracy, for your country. He didn't say overthrow the government. He used a term that politicians use constantly, including the Democrats. If you haven't seen that montage of 12 minutes of Democrats saying fight like hell, please go ahead and find that and enjoy yourself. Because all of them, we got to fight like hell, fight like hell, fight like hell, fight like hell. But when Trump says we got to fight like hell, all of a sudden that's supposed to be interpreted as go over to the Capitol, bust down the doors, overthrow our democracy, and all of that. He's relying on no one using common sense to just think about how that would look. I mean, these are the same people who tried to say when Trump was doing a rally and said, hey, Russia, if you're out there, if you find Hillary's 30,000 emails, let us know. They tried to make the public believe that Trump during that rally was seriously asking the help of Russia openly on TV. Openly on TV. That's exactly what he meant. He wasn't joking. No. We're not able, for some reason, to understand the context of which he was saying that in. So what that guy just did is tried to deceive the public that's watching him. Took that statement that Trump said completely out of context and relies on people's ignorance and inability, or should I say non-effort, to go and say, let me watch that in context. And you'll find that Trump was saying, we got to be firm, we got to be consistent, we got to be diligent, we have to be able to go over there and let our voices peacefully be heard. But yet here he is trying to say, well, look, it was right out there open. Kind of like the next guy we're about to listen to, who was lying and saying that for 4 years, they were going to provide proof that Trump was a Russian agent because there was evidence right out there in the open. So speaking of deals with devils, here's two of them right here.
I think Facebook's decision to reinstate Donald Trump is inexplicable. It represents, in my view, a total caving in and copping out. The only motive I can see is a profit motive here.
Profit.
If you look at what Donald Trump has been posting on his own social media platform, all of that violates Facebook's policies.
Oh, it does?
He's continuing to give aid and comfort to those who committed acts of insurrection. He's continuing to spread the big lie. And the idea that somehow he would not do that on Facebook when he's doing it on his own platform, to me, is a tragic decision by a company that is putting its profit above the public interest.
Now, it's rich that they bring those two on right there. These are the two that just got removed from the Intel committee. These are the two that really should be embarrassed to show their face in public. These are some of the worst congressmen that yet MSNBC brings on their show. These two have been two of the biggest perpetrators of dis and misinformation that I've ever seen. These guys came out and accused Donald Trump of being a Russian agent, which was a lie. They accused him of making a phone call to Zelensky, trying to threaten him to go after Joe Biden, and holding money over his head, for just political purposes, which was a lie. These are the two men that definitely shouldn't be on the Intel community, because one slept with a Chinese spy and the other one was utilizing his power, his knowledge within the Intel community to go out and spread more lies and disinformation about Russia. And then Adam Schiff was also seen in an email asking Twitter to go ahead and censor anybody who might be damaging to narratives, to the information that the Democrats were putting out, to the ability for Joe Biden to be elected. That man right there is a person who would love to see censorship. But yet here he is being brought on MSNBC as Joy Reid sits there nodding, allowing these two to pretend that they're trying to protect our democracy. They're trying to protect our freedom from this dictator. These two that wants to silence Trump, who wants to control speech, who use their position to abuse the people, lying to the American people about Trump's involvement with Russia, going in and taking information that they knew was not true, and going out there and just saying, you know what, we're going to say it is true. We're going to say that absolutely Giuliani and them, they're used by the Russians, and the laptop of Hunter Biden is nothing but Russian disinformation, knowing that it was a lie. And now these two liars are right back on that network trying to tell everyone else that it would be a mistake to let Donald Trump come back on the platform. Now, what you got to ask yourself is, what's the motive? I mean, do you think that these news networks really are trying to protect our democracy, or are they trying to protect the people in power from Donald Trump, who resist those people that are in power, who opposes them, who exposes them? I mean, you got to stop and ask yourself at some point, why are all the powerful entities converging upon Donald Trump? What is it about him that makes them get so mad? Why is he the number one threat? Well, because he can't be controlled. He refuses to be silent. He refuses to surrender our country over to globalism. He refuses to let unelected bureaucrats control our country. He refuses to send our jobs overseas. He refuses to have an open border and let people come and go in our country whenever they want to. He refuses to compromise the First, Second Amendment and all the others. He refuses to do those things, and people that are in power would love to control all of those things and keep their power. They have no interest in our country first. These are globalists. These are people who have an ulterior motive, and it ain't looking out for us. Now, I hated to have to go ahead and expose them like that, but that's what I do here in Kevin's Corner and on my channel that causes you to stop and think about it. So that's what I want y'all to do. Think about it. Are these people really for our best interest? I doubt it. Now, God bless y'all. God bless America. Take care.